God gave us talents. And with our talents, we need to do something. And it's not always about generating money. Money is one talent that we have. And everybody has a talent to generate money, by the way. But it's just a matter of how long is it going to take and how are you going to go about it? And then what are you going to do with it?
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Leverage Leader Podcast, a show and a program designed to help you make maximum use, to make use of something for your maximum advantage. And so I'm super excited today to share with you a very, very, very distinguished panel, two amazing colleagues and friends of mine. We're going to talk about something today that is very interesting take on leverage. You know, we're always talking about leverage and what things that you can actually leverage to help move your business and your life forward. And today we're going to be talking about leveraging talent. And so when we talk about talent, when you look at it, it's a very broad word when you begin to think about it, but there are actually definitions and meanings to talent that's going to be extremely important today, and how the use of talent can actually give you maximum advantage in finance, can give you maximum advantage in business, and in whatever area and arena that you want to be able to look at and pursue, because those things are your wealth. They are your wealth. So today I am super excited to have with me Louis Monsour. He is the founder of Make It and Keep It Wealth Systems. Louis is, wow, anything, all things trading, all things real estate, business ownership. This is your guy. Matter of fact, Louis, we met now, wow, maybe what now? Almost 15, 16, 17 years ago, 17 years ago. And I was so enamored with Louis's expertise that I asked humbly, could I go to work for him? And he told me no. I said, well, okay. He said, no, because I'm not looking for an employee. I'm looking for a partner. And he's like, because when I get ready to go on vacation, you can't tell me I can't go because I got to go to work. And so he took me under his wing, shared some things with me about how money works and how money grows. And I don't want to steal too much of his thunder, but he's got some stuff that he's going to share with you today that's going to be extremely powerful in understanding how money works, and more importantly, how to make it work for you. And next of all, the man, the myth, the legend, Ben Gay III. Ben has been considered a sales legend. He is an icon. In fact, if you're doing anything in the line of training and selling, then you go to your library and you're going to see a copy of Ben Gay's The Closers in your library. And if you don't see it, leave the company, because they don't know what they're talking about and they don't know what they're doing. But yes, Ben Gay, his list is far too long and too extensive for me to just share here. Plus, I'm going to have Ben on another podcast and things of that, and you're going to be able to really get into some pieces with him. But I got these two guys together today because we have something that I am super excited about sharing with you, but you got to stay to the end of the podcast to get it. So let's make it very meaningful for you on the journey there by digging into this conversation about leveraging talent. So I want to start with you, Louis. Take a moment right now. And when we talk about talent, again, it's a very broad term. When you think about talent, what comes to mind to you about talents?
Well, you and I have discussed this before, and the first thing that comes to my mind is from the Bible. For those of you who read the Bible, the parable about the talents, where the landowner or the king gives three of his servants some talents. And it was 1, 5, and 10, I believe. And he went away for a while and then came back and wanted to see what they did with that. And people always looked at the number or the dollar amount that was generated, or how many more talents they created. I always looked at what they did, their action, their mindset, their approach as being the talent. And I think that's what the king looked at as well, because he took the one that had one talent, he buried it. So when he came back and he says, well, I was afraid and whatever, and here's your one talent back, he took that talent and gave it to the other guy who made 10.
Yeah.
And so
he took his 5 and turned it to 10.
Right.
Yeah.
So he was given a talent that he didn't use. If you're not going to use your talents, that's waste. God gave us talents. And with our talents, we need to do something. And it's not always about generating money. Money is one talent that we have. And everybody has a talent to generate money, by the way. But it's just a matter of how long is it going to take and how are you going to go about it? And then what are you going to do with it? And so there's a lot of talents. A lot of people like to generate money. I've told you about my dad. My dad died and didn't leave a lot of money because he gave away a lot of his money while he was alive. His special talent for me that I saw in my dad is he helped out people. And I didn't know how many people he'd helped out until he died. Oh, your dad bailed me out with, thousands of dollars. Your dad, my son survived because of your dad. So that's a talent from the heart. So there's a lot of ways of talent. Our talent is to be able to share how we make money and how we, leverage. Again, there's a lot of people smarter than I out there who've already figured this out. So I'm not going to reinvent the wheel. I just simply learned how to put the system together, imitate what they did, and that's what I'm teaching. So your talent, whatever it may be, is going to fit somewhere in this cog, because everybody fits in this cog. It's just you have to figure out where you fit, where your talent is needed, and how you're going to use it.
I think this is extremely powerful because we're powerful because we're talking about the concept of leveraging talents. Well, what do we know about leverage? What do we know about leverage? It's the use of something for maximum advantage. It
Right.
gives you the ability to achieve far beyond your own efforts. So when we're beginning to talk about what we're leveraging, first of all, it's important to understand what the purpose of leverages are really all about. And then to understand how we utilize that particular thing as leverage so that we can achieve the whole point of what leverage is all about. And so in looking at that, the way you talked about it, you described, I think it's super important to really get what you shared about it, because like you said, we all have a talent to be able to produce wealth. We all have a talent to be able to do that. That is something that we were given by our creator, by God himself. We were all given that ability to be able to produce it. But what we do, like how we process that in our mind, how we process the way we think about ourselves, what's possible for us, what we understand about how things work, can impact how well or not well at all we actually leverage that particular talent. And so I think that's extremely important to get and grasp the mind. Like, what do you think to do with it? From, like you said, the parable, what did the people think to do with it? When he put it in the hands of the one, put the talent in the hands of the guy with 1, and then the guy with 2, and then the guy with 5, it said that the guy with 5, he immediately went and done something with it. So his train of thought was to immediately go do something with it. And when you begin to think about the talents that people have right now, like, what is the mindset around the talents that we've been given? What is that mindset? And are we utilizing it as leverage to create maximum use for that thing, or maximum advantage? Are we using it in a way to create a maximum advantage for ourselves?
Right. The vehicle's already been created by other people, and so it's just a matter of, are you going to try to reinvent it and therefore not get anywhere? Or, Think and Grow Rich was written so many years ago. A lot of the approaches that we're going to discuss and that we are discussing and that we are using, they couldn't use them back then. They didn't have the internet. They didn't have the lending power that we have. They didn't have the credit power that we have. Only a handful had that. Now, just about anybody who understands the system of leverage can apply that. So we're every 6 months, we're growing at the rate of 10 years that we were growing when we were younger, as far as knowledge and ability and opportunity. And so the talent that I see is to leverage those opportunities that are available to us. And so to me, that's the biggest talent. And again, you can make $1 million or $100 or $100 million. That's beside the point. You know, you can choose what you want, but are you going to get onto the right system? Are you going to leverage the system that's in place? You know, why would you push a car when all you do is put gas in it to start it up and have the motor move it? You know, so that's the leverage. Back then, we used to have to push that car. Now we have fuel, put it in, turn in the key, or if you have an electric car, just charge it up, right? But again, it's leverage. You're leveraging that motor to move it forward. And so your talents are your thought and your ability to harness that thought into something that's already in existence and kind of save yourself some time.
I want to take what you just said and kind of segue that, because you were talking about Dr. Napoleon Hill.
Yes.
And while there are many people who talk about they knew Dr. Napoleon Hill, and many people talk about how they associate how they associate themselves with the teachings of Dr. Hill and things of that nature. We have with us the last protege of Dr. Napoleon Hill, with Ben Gay III. In fact, Ben Gay actually hired Dr. Napoleon Hill to work for him. He actually worked for him. It wasn't that Ben worked for Dr. Hill, but Dr. Hill actually worked for him. And so I want to take this moment to segue into that. And as we're talking about the concept of leveraging talent, Ben, how in the world did you get somebody so powerful, so amazing? And of course, we're looking at him from hindsight, but you had the ability to have him as a coach, as a mentor, somebody to work alongside of you to help you build and, you know, become a better CEO, become a better leader, become a better salesperson, become a better business owner. How in the world were you able, you know, to acquire him as a mentor? And then what was it like to sit under his mentorship and experience the benefits of him leveraging his talent?
Wonderful. To answer your basic question, we became good friends. He was hired originally by William Penpatrick, the owner of the company I was running, Holiday Magic Cosmetics, because Bill had made me president of the company. I earned it. I actually won the presidency in a sales contest, but I was 25 years old and running what soon became a company that was doing $1 million a day. It's $3.5 billion in today's money. And I was a high school graduate, 25 years old. So Bill unwisely made me president, perhaps, wisely figured out that maybe an older hand who had some experience might be of help to me. So Dr. Hill was in our office giving Bill an award. In some book, he was named one of the 5 greatest living Americans or something like that. And on the way out the door from the presentation, I didn't even know he was in the building. He and Bill started talking. Dr. Hill and Bill started talking, and Bill said, I was told later by Bill and Dr. Hill, something to the effect of, I've got this great young man, superstar out in the field selling, but now he's running a company, and I'm pretty sure there must be times when he's afraid to make that long walk down the hallway. My office was in the front of the building, his was in the back, to tell me that he's afraid or he doesn't know what he's doing or whatever. And maybe you could fill that gap for me. I'd like to hire you to be his, I don't know what term he used back then. We weren't using coach. Now everybody's a coach, as you are, Am. You're the head coach. But I don't remember really what the term was. But what he did was he hired me an experienced grandfather. Dr. Hill was biologically old enough to be my great-grandfather. The day we met, I was 25, he was 84. And So that's how it started. Bill came in the office with this older gentleman. I stood up being polite and said, "Hi, I'm Ben Gay. What's your name?" And before Dr. Hill could answer, Bill Patrick looked at me like I was a Martian and said, "Ben, that's Dr. Napoleon Hill." I said, "Oh, I've never seen a current picture." I'd only seen those pictures with that high collar that looked like he has just escaped a lynching party. And and they were all much younger. So he said, here's the deal. You can tell him anything you want to tell him. You can ask him anything you want to ask him, and he will not pass it on to me. I'm hiring him, one-on-one relationship. Then you're talking about hiring. Bill paid the first year, and towards the end of the first year, Dr. Hill began hinting to me that, are we going to go forward? So I went to Bill's office and I said, "Dr. Hill's sort of warming me up for a second year. What do you think?" He said, "Well, it's totally up to you. I paid the first year, you pay the second year." That was $50,000 in 1965, pardon me, 1967 dollars. So it's about $500,000 today. It was not a casual decision. But by that time, I'd gotten so much benefit out of it, I paid him. And the next year, I believe, he died 2.5 years after we started working together. And I kiddingly say, I'm going to contact the Hill estate one day and find out if they don't owe me some money, because we paid in even years and he didn't live even years. You were talking about Think and Grow Rich. It's not the one I really read. This one hasn't been opened. The binding has never been cracked. A lady bought it from Dr. Hill, took it home, stood in line. I know the process, and he signed it for her. Her name was Grace Dixon, and she took it home, put it in her bookcase, and there it sat for 75 years. I know that. I know the business. Dr. Hill once told me that Think and Grow Rich was one of the best-selling, least read books in the history of mankind. And bright red, bleached out binding. Grace Dixon took it home, stuck it in her bookcase, and there it sat for 75 years with the binding bleached. She got nothing out of the experience. When a friend of mine bought it at a garage sale and handed it to me, I started opening it up. My God, the binding hasn't been cracked. So I've left it uncracked. Dr. Hill said that Think and Grow Rich, he wrote as a sales training manual. People have looked for deep meaning in it, and there is deep meaning in it. When the student is ready, the teacher will appear. If you're ready for deep meaning, you can find it in that book. But he wrote it as a sales training. He thought only salespeople were going to buy it. And then the secret of Think and Grow Rich, most people that spend their lifetime looking for the secret, he told me what the secret was. Action. Take action. Wrote the whole book so you get up off your duff and do something, he thought, in the field of selling. So that's how he became my mentor and friend, and how I discovered, I tested a few times, that I could literally tell him anything, and it never went beyond the two of us. And he believed in praise in public and criticism in private. He never asked even a challenging question of me, never mind criticism. With everybody sitting around, which they frequently were, I leveraged him. When he was in the building, I didn't hog him. I would find excuses to get the staff together or the executive team together so I could leverage Dr. Hill's presence and knowledge. And he never once cracked that code that we had between us. Just a wonderful human being. Could be old and cranky from time to time. He wasn't Prince Charming and wasn't trying to be, but he'd tell you the truth. A dear friend of mine once told me, Ben, and I'll have to clean it up, but he said, always have at least one person around you who will tell you the absolute blanking truth. And I've been blessed with several, but including my current wife. I wish she'd back off on that a little bit. But Dr. Hill was certainly among those. In private, when the door, I've told you both of you this before, we'd be in my office working, they're talking about something, or having a meeting or something, and then everybody would get up and leave. Well, he had no place to go. His spot in my office was at the end of my conference table, which was my desk. I sat in the middle of it. And so they would all get up, whether it was 1 or 15 or 20. And when the door clicked out of the corner of my eye, I was always watching him, because if he put the pen down and his head came up, I was about to hear some news about the meeting he'd just been in. I used to think about always holding one person back so he wouldn't attack me, but he did. So he taught me how to leverage people and opportunities, which was funny because I was in the multi-level marketing business. You'd think you'd figure out multiplication in that business alone, but he really taught me how to leverage people and get the most out of them. My little board of directors in-house in the domestic company and the main company, we had 20 some odd boards of directors, but the main one, when I got there, were warring factions. The legal department was ratting out the advertising department. The advertising department didn't like the production department or the purchasing department, whatever. And I said, I feel like I'm running a lion taming operation. Dr. Hill said, have they been up to the house? I said, no, I don't socialize much with anybody but the salespeople. He said, well, that's a mistake. Get them up the house, make them all friends. And then the next day, have them in this office and tell them you can operate differently from now on. And that formed my first serious mastermind group. And they became a pool. We leveraged them. They became a pool of wonderful, strong people, all invested in helping everyone at the table. The rivalries went away. So that's I could go on, as you know, but that's my leveraging story about people, and it all came back to Dr. Hill. And I was blessed with other people. Earl Nightingale was the voice of our company. He became a mentor of mine. Og Mandino, Dr. Norman Vincent Peale, Dr. Robert Schuler, J. Douglas Edwards, Phil. I was in the catbird seat, so I had a real opportunity to leverage. Well, I was just a young punk kid learning my way. I was in a position where they all had to come around me to get hired in our various companies and do seminars and autograph, endorse books and so on. And it took me a little while, 30, 60 days, to figure out, this is interesting. Because a lot of those people wouldn't have given me the time of day if I weren't sitting in the president's chair at the main company.
And that would, in essence, became a form of leverage for you, because that gave
Absolutely.
you the ability and position you. So there's so many nuggets here to share, far too many for us to extract in the short period of time that we have. But this is something that you said that I really want to draw emphasis on in this conversation. And Louis, I would love to hear you speak to this too. Oftentimes when we hear, gosh knows, neither one of you are any strangers when it comes to the wealth conversation. Ben's been doing them. He knows what doing $1 million a day since 1960. So I wasn't even born in 65, but he's been making millions longer than I've been alive daily.
I've got shoes. I have shoes older than you.
Yeah, he got shoes older than me. But in looking at this wealth conversation, it's super important, because one of the things that you said, Ben, and what having you as a colleague, having you as a friend, and even a mentor in my life has taught me, is that wealth is never the destination. It's what you said. It's about being able to get the most out of people, the most out of things. And so wealth is really all about impact. It's about the impact that you're able to make on people, the impact you're able to make on your community, the world around you, and the world at large. You've been doing that since 1965, impacting the world. and the closers, the impact that it's made, the National Association of Professional Salespeople, the various numbers of books, the things that you have became the pioneer, the catalyst of. There's, like I said, far too many to mention today, but the things that you have done, even down to coaching NASA, it is phenomenal. But it all comes back to impact. It all comes back to the dynamic of impact. So as we begin to talk about leveraging talents, we have to begin to wait a conversation of what's the purpose of all of this? What's the purpose of, like, because we all know people that love the concept of getting wealthy, but grossly fall short of it all the time because they think wealth is a destination. To that, you say what, Ben?
For me, wealth, and I've been, as Mike Todd, the great Hollywood producer, said, I've been rich and I've been poor. Rich is better. I've never been poor, but like Mike Todd, he also said later, I've never been poor. I've been broke lots of times. Mm-hmm. So the rich, poor, broke, rolling in dough, whatever, has never really been what was my objective or even what was going on. I was just trying to get better, get myself in better spots, leverage the better spot, multiply my efforts by teaching other people the good things that I knew and warning them about the bad things that I knew. And the money just sort of happened. I remember one day Harold Lipscar, financial guy, came into the office. He says, how's it feel to be a millionaire? And I said, I don't know. I'll tell you when I get there. He said, that's the reason I said it to you. You're there. He, on a side basis, for lack of a better word, ran my finances in addition to the company's finances worldwide. And so I became a millionaire. That used to be more impressive than it is today. If you live in California and you know somebody who owns a house, they're a millionaire. So, but back when that was semi-impressive, millionaire was something that happened to me on the way to trying to become a better person and duplicate myself. So I literally didn't know. I remember the first time I was balancing a checkbook or something. That's probably an exaggeration since I'm not sure how to balance a checkbook, but I remember looking down at the balance in my personal checking account. Maybe I got a statement and I had $100,000. And my instant reaction was, uh-oh, I hope that doesn't get me in trouble. I didn't know an individual could have $100,000 sitting in a bank account. And I quickly learned that isn't where it should be sitting, but nevertheless, it had accumulated. And that, like what we're talking about, just happened. I was busy doing what I set out to do, was get good at my skills, learn how to be a good communicator. I happened to overhear a conversation one day between William Penpatrick and the president of the company then, a guy named Fred Pape. And they were looking at a video of me that I had done that morning. All of us, a whole bunch of people had done a video. We were all in a training class together, but they happened to be looking at mine when I walked in behind them. They didn't know I was in the room. And Bill Patrick said to Fred Pape, he's good. He said, I will pay more for the ability to communicate effectively than any other skill. I did the moonwalk back out of that meeting room. They never knew I was there. I might have told them over a glass of wine a couple of years later, but they didn't know I was there at the time. But I decided that day that was the leverage I was going to use to get to the top. I was going to be able to stand in front of 15, 20,000 people and be more comfortable there than I am in my living room making small talk with relatives. And rather quickly, I achieved that, both in standing in front of big crowds and feeling comfortable. And then you talk about leverage. You get 15, 20,000 people to like you and buy what you're selling. And I mean, not only the concept, but the product or the service, buy what you're selling. That is leverage. That is power. And it made everything else possible. I think I would have gotten, I think I would have made the journey anyway, but overhearing that conversation probably cut 3, 4, 5 years off the journey.
I think it's so powerful. The thing that sticks with me is you said it sort of happened on my way to just becoming a better person.
Mm-hmm.
And that is so significant, because when people talk about it, rarely do you hear that part ever come out of their mouth. Maybe it's not even in their thinking, it's not in their view, because they just see it as the destination. And I talk to millionaires and stuff all the time, and they'll all say the same thing. If you think the trivial things that you're dealing with now are going to go away once you cross this mark, you better wake up now, because that stuff doesn't stop. None of that stuff changes. It's just the fact that you're different. And all of a sudden, what might have been a $20,000 payroll becomes a $200,000 payroll. And, you know, these things they don't go away. It's just because of your growth, again, thinking and growing, Rich, you are able to handle it a lot differently. And so I had to come back to Lewis on this piece, because Lewis, you teach wealth building. You teach how to grow your money. You teach about how money works and that things of that nature. But one of the things I've been fascinated about with you is your mindset approach to all of this, how you approach it from the mindset perspective of it. And so I wanted to take the same question, same thing. I'm talking about the conversation that we're having with Ben, and you plug in your input into this, because from someone who teaches people how to do this on a day-to-day basis, someone who can, you know, like this is like second nature, you know, to you in reference to that. What role, how critical is the role of mindset in wealth building?
Mindset is wealth building. Mindset is the wealth. A lot of people, like we said earlier, think of wealth as the money. Rich is money, because that's just monetary, just a handful of things. And you can get that by Think and Grow Rich. Like, you know, Ben was saying, Dr. Hill said, just take some action, get up there and go do something. You can become rich. Wealth is a mindset. I told you my greatest mentor was my dad and my grandfather. I come from a family of entrepreneurs. And what I learned from them, my dad, like I said, he gave away a lot of his money. One, because, hey, all my kids know what they're doing and they have their own businesses. So he helped out a lot of people. But he always explained or told us that he was the wealthiest man in the world because he had people that he loved and loved him. He had health. He had knowledge. Remember, we left a country, a war-torn country, with 3 suitcases. My mom, my dad, and 4 kids, and 2 suitcases. And he had to come to the United States and start all over. Knowledge was his wealth. He knew what to do when he got here. He put it all together. He took advantage of the opportunity. He leveraged the opportunity, leveraged the knowledge that he had and that he had learned. He leveraged all of that. So, you know, Dr. Hill was, if you read that book, and as you know, I recommend that people read Think and Grow Rich and The Power of Positive Thinking by Dr. Peel every year, along with the Bible, of course, but because that mindset is your wealth. Without that, you're not going to do anything. Unfortunately, there's some people that are just manic depressant, and I feel sorry for them because they're missing out on so many things because they can't harness their wealth, that mastermind quality that they need to build wealth around them, just to be happy, not necessarily money, but just to be happy. So we are blessed that we don't have that hindrance, you know, and I like to help those people. The people that don't have that hindrance have no excuse. And it all starts with the mindset. If you think you can be rich, you're right. If you think you're not going to be rich, you're right, because you decide. It's your mindset. It's your brain. You get up and you take action. Dr. Hill wrote a book called Think and Grow Rich. What we're doing here is leverage and grow wealth. That's the only difference. It's an extension of that book, if you think about it. We're taking the same mindset, but we're leveraging so many things that we have available to us now to become wealthy and healthy and take advantage of the opportunities and that knowledge. You know that I was embezzled, went under, millions of dollars gone. Then you come back because you know what to do. You get a flat tire. You know that you just take it off, put on the spare, and then you go down the road. You don't just abandon the car. So the mindset is that entire engine that's going to move everything forward.
It's so powerful that you said that, because in thinking about it, and being Lewis decided to take present, pull it out the bag before we shared it with everybody, but he kind of pulled it out, the whole leverage and grow wealth. But what I'll say in reference to that is that when we're talking about growing wealth, we're talking about growing you. We're talking about growing you. You've heard Ben say, man, this thing happened on my way to becoming a better person. He was in essence saying, this happened on my way. Like I was growing to be wealthy because I was thinking about becoming a better person. I was focused all of my activities on things becoming a better person. Lewis says wealth is mindset. So what are we pursuing? Ultimately, by pursuing wealth, we're pursuing our best selves. We're pursuing the highest and best use of the resources that we've been given and purposed to utilize in our time here on earth. We're utilizing those things. We're becoming better and building wealth. Man, what does it do? It gives you the ability to achieve big things in your life. That's what growth does, period. Making the decision to grow, but as you put it, like when you're trying to come back and trying to do things, yeah, you're gonna have a flat tire along the way, but you don't say, oh, I told you I couldn't do it. This is not for me. You just throw everything away because that day, it was tougher. But from what I understand, and out of Dr. Napoleon Hill's book, he said every adversity brings with it the seed of an equivalent advantage. So adversity compels us to creativity. Adversity challenges us to make us better, It moves us towards a better being, a better existence. So when we begin to look at it from that through that lens, I think what you said, Lewis, is so powerful, because there are those cases of people that are depressed. I mean, manically depressed. But you know what? It's so much a part when we look at a society where we can honestly say that the wealthiest are the minority in one of the richest countries in the world. How can that be? How can we be one of the richest countries in the world and the wealthy are the minority? Why aren't we 85% wealthy? Why aren't we 95% wealthy? It's exactly what you're talking about, because we've been sold a short change cut bill of goods into believing that the appearance of $1 million is going to take all my pain away. The appearance of growing, of achieving whatever degree, whatever that number is going to, then I won't have to grow anymore. I can just, it's my get out of life free card. I don't have to do anything. And I could just take it easy for a couple of years and just lay back. But as the book says, is think and grow rich. Growth is uncomfortable. It's extremely uncomfortable. And becoming a better person is uncomfortable. But as you navigate it, and like we said, when you're given the tools, you're given the environment, you're given the support that you need, it makes it that mastermind community. Getting those things help you to move you towards a better person. So when you say leverage to wealth, okay, leverage to grow wealth, we're not talking about money. We're in essence talking about making you a better person, a better being, people who are growth focused. If you're going to build wealth, you got to be growth focused. You got to talk about growing your money. You got to talk about growing yourself. You got to talk about growing your legacy. You got to talk about growing your community. You got to talk about the impact that you're making on people's lives. And so, as Lewis alluded to, and he shared it a little earlier, we have a program we're super excited about, like being said, creating that mastermind community. We're going to be doing a mastermind called Leverage to Grow Wealth. And we're going to talk about it in our upcoming masterclass on leveraging to grow wealth. So what I want you to do, there's going to be some information right here below in this podcast I want you to attend to, because we're going to be doing a masterclass entitled Leverage to Grow Wealth. And it's going to be, if I'm not mistaken, on, so I'm having to look at it right through here. Okay, the 20th, July the 20th at 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. That's 2 p.m. Pacific. And the Central, you're somewhere in between. You're 1 hour back. But the Pacific is 2 p.m. Pacific, 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We're going to do a masterclass on leveraging to grow wealth. And in that, we're going to get an amazing training. You're going to get to hear more about what we're talking about and ultimately put you on that journey to growing your wealth, growing the better you, growing what it is that you desire to achieve. And how you're going to do that is you're going to have to learn how to grow your mindset. You're going to have to learn how to grow your methods, which is what Ben is excellent at doing. And growing your methods of growth from sales to business, understanding how to operate as a leader in your business, how to grow teams, how to leverage people and get the most out of them. Ben is going to share that. And then Lewis is going to talk about how you leverage money and how you grow money. And you want to learn how to leverage money because they're the best. That's the best employee you could ever have in your life. They can travel the world and never call in sick. Money can travel the world and grow for you at rapid paces and speeds. And it never wants a vacation and it never calls in sick. So why not put money to work for us to help us grow it? You're going to get this full training in, like I said, on the 20th, Leverage to Grow Wealth. And so I want you to register for the masterclass, the upcoming masterclass on this, so we can teach you how to leverage your talents. So you how to leverage your talents to move you into this realm where you can make, you can use something for maximum advantage in your own life. Man, this has been an amazing talk. And ironically, because we do this all the time, it's probably one of the shorter conversations that we've had. What do you think, guys?
Yeah, we're cutting it a
We're
little
done?
shorter.
What do you mean?
Yeah. Guys, that's been it for this edition. I am so glad to be able to do this with my friends, man. These guys are amazing. That's been this edition of the Leverage Leader Podcast. Listen, make sure that you register for the upcoming Leverage to Grow Wealth masterclass that we're doing. Gonna be a lot of material around it, a lot of stuff coming out about it. So make sure you're locked into it. Stay locked into the Leverage Leader Podcast. And remember, something in your life can be leveraged to create something that you want. Why not leverage today? God bless you all and talk soon.